Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Charity Charge Show. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are pleased to be joined by Shelli Brunswick. She is both an author and speaker and has done some incredible work across many sectors, and really excited to dive into the really variety of work that she has done in her amazing career. Shelli, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be with you and look forward to sharing insights about, as you said, nonprofits and charities and global organizations.
Of course, I would love to start off, and if you could paint the picture a little bit of your journey, for our audience, and kind of how we've gotten to where you are today. Written a few books, one on the way. Tell me a little bit more about your background.
Absolutely. Well, probably similar to many of your audience listeners who are running nonprofits. I have several chapters of my journey. I started in the U.S. Air
Mm,
Force. I did space procurement or space acquisition, so that started my space career, and we'll talk more about that later. I then, when I retired from the Air Force, went to work for a nonprofit. We did a lot of educational programs, kindergarten through 12th grade, teacher professional development, creating entrepreneurial accelerators and programs. So that was a wonderful opportunity. So I empathize with your listeners out there who are in the nonprofit sector. And then recently I started my own company where I can really be that motivational speaker and author where I can share those insights as well as the
yeah.
insights of others is a form of giving back.
Incredible. As you've navigated and kind of transitioned to each one of these kind of spaces, what would be, a piece of advice or a lesson that really stuck with you, as especially you were in kind of the nonprofit space, that you would want to kind of share with our audience?
Well, I think the most important thing and throughout that journey, that through line, we'll call it, is your team, your
Mm,
people you're working with. In the military, you're on a team. That's what makes every assignment, every job, everything you're doing. That's what really makes every day worth getting up and going into work. You're accomplishing great things together. Nobody goes to space alone, as we say. There's thousands of people behind that one astronaut that goes to space that makes that mission happen. So you have that commitment from the military, and I did space while I was in the US Air Force. There was no Space Force. So I was really that space person living that dream. And when I retired and went to work at a nonprofit, and I now am on the board of several of those, it's really important to have that team that has the same passion, buys into the vision you have that you're leading for your nonprofit so that they're on board with where you want to go, what you want to do. It's not
mm.
just a job for them. And then, of course, being a motivational speaker and author, it's really about the team. I am a solopreneur, as I tell people, but my husband's on the team as the COO. I have many partners and collaborators. And of course, in each book, I've interviewed 30 global thought leaders. So my team is very diverse and non traditional. They're not working for me, they're really collaborating with me because they want to be part of the adventure I'm on now, sharing that knowledge and insight and paying it forward.
Incredible. And this aspect of team, I think it's a commonality that's brought up all the time within a nonprofit space. And there's definitely some competitive advantages that nonprofits have. This mission aligned work, having these individuals that are really bought into to what the organization's doing. There's also challenges that come from being a nonprofit organization in terms of retaining talent and kind of building them up and really equipping them for success and kind of career growth. As you navigated, that nonprofit space and your other roles, how did you navigate that aspect in terms of really building and retaining talent?
So, the first thing I'll say is everyone listening, no matter where you are in your journey, we all have to be lifelong learners. We have to be out there continuing to upskill, reskill because technology is changing, information is changing, and we need to be on the cutting edge. So, whether you're a leader or a follower, or you're both, actually, leaders are followers too. You need to be reskilling and upskilling. And that is an individual responsibility, but then it also becomes a leadership responsibility. How are you growing and nurturing your talent? Because we're not always going to be here. You want to be able to take vacation. You might want to retire. You move on and become the chairman of the board for your nonprofit. So you need to be creating that succession planning. So the military does a really good job. Every so many years, they send you to training, you get promoted, you get new jobs and roles. It's a little more challenging when you go off on your own into whether it's private or public sector or nonprofit because you really have to navigate that. Hopefully, you get some good mentors and some good leaders and coaches who help you figure out where you need to be. But it's really on you to create that awareness and understanding. And in nonprofits, they may have some challenges that other organizations may or may not, which is, maybe funding. What's their level of funding to provide that leadership training to their team. And of course, you want to be training and investing in your team because you want them to stay with you. You want them to grow. You want them to continue to lead that mission and vision forward. So it's really important. And even now, in my role where I'm running my own company, I'm taking classes all the time, online programs. I think, again, we need to be reskilling and upskilling. I come out of the space industry, but now I really talk about the total emerging technology space. So you're talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, cyber, advanced manufacturing. I can go on and on. That technology is evolving so quickly. One of the places I'll be this year, and I hope some of your followers might join me if they're in that emerging technology space, is I'll be at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January. And if you're going to be there, send me a note on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect and have coffee.
Amazing. Something that came to my mind because you're actively sitting on a board or multiple boards of some nonprofit organizations, and you've also had the role kind of more on that executive side. If our nonprofit audience listening in, they're sitting in this executive seat and they see the value in really kind of building and enriching their team members through, an education program or certification, and they're trying to communicate that value to their board, both from a board perspective and then from that, executive perspective. How should you kind of communicate the value that really comes from doing that within an organization?
Well, I think it's really important that you have to have a strategy. So you have to have a outreach strategy. Are you doing a capital campaign? You may be doing those every so many years depending on facility build. And those can be the hardest is the capital campaign, building brick and mortar. But you should always be doing some sort of campaign to be growing, to be increasing your programs. And that really starts with that plan. What is your communication plan? I mean, there's a whole bunch of plans, but what's your communication plan? What's your communication plan to your board? And then what's their communication plan? So whether they're actively fundraising for you, but even if they're not, people reach out like, hey, you're on the Manufacturers Edge board of directors. Tell me a little about it. What are you guys doing? You want to make sure your board of directors is able to articulate what they're doing, what your mission is, and how those individuals can help you. So you need to have a communication plan for your executive leadership team, for board members, for your team. They're out there in the community every day, picking up their kids at daycare, or dropping them off at school or in the supermarket. Hey, I know you work for Arrow AI. What are you guys doing for kindergarten through 12th grade? My 8-year-old is really excited about space. What are you doing about that? You want your team members to be able to advance that message. And it has to be in a format that's fun and easy to digest. So, one of the things I'm sure you've heard from other members is storytelling is the best way to do it. How can you move the needle with storytelling? And in addition to storytelling, you also want to have facts that can back that up. What are you doing to back up that story? What have you delivered? And if people continue to donate, here's how much more you could deliver. So it's really good that not only do you as the executive fundraising team, but to everybody who's part of your organization, anybody who's a stakeholder, they know how to communicate your mission, your vision, and how everybody can help that call to action.
I love it. Could you share an example? Maybe whenever you're at Space Foundation or in your current board seats of building this story and really communicating that with a donor and something coming out of that.
Well, absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is it's not one size fits all. So you might have that general message, but let's say once you've talked to somebody and they're really passionate about entrepreneurship. I know a person, he's done multiple businesses, he's, sold them, and he's really passionate about helping entrepreneurs start their journey. Okay, so what are some entrepreneurial opportunities that he could invest in that help him meet his needs? It's really about helping your donor, those stakeholders, helping them accomplish what they want to accomplish. He wants to we'll call him Jim. Jim wants to help other entrepreneurs become successful like he was. He wants to donate to programs that can help. So you want to find the way that your organization ties in with his goals and needs and helps him accomplish those and tie that in. So every message is really personal. And so whoever's doing fundraising for your organization or business development or relationship management, whatever you want to call it, it's really a full-time job. Some people think you can just have volunteers or part-time, but it's really a full-time job of management relations and really knowing how to connect with those donors and what are their goals and objectives and helping them be successful.
That is incredible. Something that's a common theme. It was a great answer, and the idea of connecting the value that the donor sees and kind of their personal values than with the needs that you have within the nonprofit organization. And I think the way that you described it, it's almost a creative process in terms of really trying to brainstorm and connect all the pieces together, right?
Absolutely. It's art and science, and it might be more art. Like, you can read books on capital campaigns, you can go to some there's a lot of, networking events and conferences you can go to, but at the end of the day, it's really about sitting down and figuring people out, and it's not asking for money on the first time. It's about really building that relationship. I always call it I don't have my coffee with me today, but I'll call it, the coffee meeting, the Coke meeting, where you get to sit down and really understand what somebody wants, and maybe that person their goals don't tie in with your organization, but you know what you can do? Maybe you know an organization that they do tie into. Don't try to fit something or create a program that's not right for your organization because you want to get dollars. In the long run, it doesn't work out. What's best is you want to find individuals who can connect to your mission. So let's say Jim didn't have anything he wanted to do at Space Foundation. Let's say, he didn't have a thing. So I turned him over to a university that has an incubator. But
Mm,
Jim has a lot of friends who might be interested in capacity building in kindergarten through 12th grade and teacher professional development. And so, since he was happy that I was an honest broker, I'll call it, he introduced me to five of his friends who might be a better fit for my nonprofit. So, it's really about being that honest broker, really understanding what their needs are. Because the other thing is, you're going to come back and ask for money again. You don't just ask when you're in a nonprofit business, you don't ask for money just once. You are a repeat person. So you want to make sure you connect, you build a relationship, you're giving them
mm.
feedback on how you're spending their money. They're getting letters from kids who got to
Being
benefit from going to
stewards.
space camp. And then you're going to come back and ask for money again. So you want to make sure it's a good fit. What I have seen that can be a failure is just what I said is when nonprofits are just trying to chase funding. They create programs that don't really tie into their mission set, their vision, their values. The team doesn't buy in. And then long term, that doesn't work out as a long term opportunity and it can hit or miss. So I
Mm.
really say tie in with what your core value is with those donors. You will find donors that believe in that.
I love that, being kind of mission driven and not compromising in that value set.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
incredible. I'd love to shift the conversation a little bit. You have this, illustrious career, and I think you kind of stepped down from your position within the Space Foundation late 2023 or so, and you really kind of stepped into this role of an author and speaker. Can you tell me a little bit more about what this process has been like, that this transition has been, and a little bit more about your book, "What's Space Got to Do with
Absolutely. Well, when I retired from the Air Force, I actually had started considering starting my own company then and being a consultant. But the opportunity to work at Space Foundation as their chief operating officer was just so amazing. And I bought in to their mission kindergarten through 12th grade,
Yeah.
capacity building, teacher professional development. I really loved it. But I'd been there 9 years, and that desire to be an entrepreneur never went away.
Mm,
So in 2024, as you said, I started my own company called SB Global LLC. You have to have a legal entity. And it was really about the lessons I had learned from meeting with people and learning from them and my journey. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, do you have your insights written down?" Because I would mentor, coach, or give talks. And so it planted that seed that we should really be writing these things down. We need to be paying it forward to the next generation, being out there and able to talk to. So the first book came out called What Space Got to Do with It 10 Life Lessons for Personal Growth. And this really was the genesis. I was invited to be the commencement speaker at my alma mater, Colorado State University, Pueblo.
okay.
And when I was the commencement speaker, the president said to me, "Keep it real, keep it real. Students want to hear your real story, your real journey, ups and downs." And so the first three
Authentic.
yeah, so the first 3 lessons in the book came from that speech, and then the rest came from elsewhere. The other thing about the book is, yes, I share my insights from my journey, but I've interviewed over 200 global thought leaders. 30 of them are highlighted in the book, 3 per chapter, all over
Mm.
the world, different ages, different professions. Some are presidents of countries or former presidents of countries. Some are in the space industry, policy, diplomacy, entrepreneurship. So the goal that I'm highlighting is although I share a lesson learned, like take advantage of opportunities, the 3 other thought leaders also became successful because they took advantage of opportunities. So this life lesson Although I look at it through the lens of space, it will apply to anyone, no matter where you are in the world. So I've even had people from Ghana say, well, do you think I can be in the space industry? Well, if you look in my first book, you'll find several people who are from Africa who are now in the space industry, even though their country does not have a space program or even a space agency. They found their way.
Is incredible. Well, you should be in my seat with how many with thought leaders you've interviewed.
That is the fun part too. I talk about being that lifelong learner, and we'll go back to the beginning of our talk. And every time I meet with one of these thought leaders, I'm taking notes, I'm writing, I'm like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. Some of it reinforces what I've already outlined and I'm already working on for my third book in the series. But some of it is like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way." And what a great way to continue to be a lifelong learner by hearing these perspectives from these other individuals who've had a different journey than I've had.
I love that. And you mentioned writing your third book. I'd love to get some insight into how that process has been. What have you learned in these last two books that you're kind of implementing in the process to kind of assist you in that creative journey, and how has that been?
So the first book was kind of that figuring it out. How do you write? How do you get efficient? Tools that are out there to help you, finding some independent reviewers. So the
Mm.
first book was kind of a learning experience. The second book came faster. Now the third book, I'm actually wrapping up the interviews for it, getting ready to write. And actually, the ideas are in my head. I just can't wait to start writing. I need to kind of wait. I'm holding myself back. I'm getting a few more interviews from a former president of a country. Stay tuned. Astronaut, stay tuned. Some really fun insight. But once I get those 30 interviews ready that I want to use in the book, then the writing process becomes easy. Then what I share with you is the writing is the fun part. That's the creative part. Then you have all the business part, just like running
Yeah,
a nonprofit. You've got your mission and then you got all the other stuff. So you're not only writing the book, you've got to manage the independent reviews, you got to manage the editor, you got to manage the marketing, the publishing. I publish with Amazon, love Amazon, KDP as a partner. I think they're amazing. So you then switch from fun writing creative mode to business mode of putting together an actual book. So I share with your thought leaders out there who are saying, hey, I've always wanted to write a book. She talked about it. Yes, writing the book is good. The other part is the part that can be challenging. And what I'll share with you
yeah.
is somebody once told me there's two kinds of writers in the world, those that have published and those that have not. Be in the first one. So you can get wrapped up in the back end, be in the front end, write the book, figure out how to streamline the admin procedural process and get it done.
I love that. And as we come towards the end of the conversation, how should our guests get involved with the work that you're doing? Please share.
Absolutely. Well, there's a few ways. Obviously, I'm a motivational speaker, so love to speak to your audiences. There could be an opportunity, whether it's in person or virtual. I can even do some workshops on the book. I've done some globally for some student organizations as well. And then, of course, you can check out the book. It's available on Amazon. And in addition to the book, they're on my YouTube channel, Shelli Brunswick. There's webinars that I've
Mm.
interviewed the 30 thought leaders in this book as well as the second book. So you can sneak peek those and be like, oh, I want to learn more from that leader. So you can check out the video, buy the book, and follow me on LinkedIn. And I've also set up this new thing. It's probably not new to you, but it's called Substack. And I'm starting to publish a newsletter on Substack as well. So follow me on
Okay.
Substack.
Amazing. And for a nonprofit audience, what would be a last piece of advice or a lesson that you'd want to leave with them as we come to an end?
Well, every day, keep sharing that vision, bringing people together. Because as we started from the beginning, it's really about the team, not just your team that's working for you, with you, but all those stakeholders, the members on your board, the people who support you in the community. You want to be able to share that vision and be the light that brings that vision to life through those stakeholders. That's how you can exponentially grow.
Shelly, thank you for that final note and for coming on and sharing more about your incredible journey and what you're up to today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. And until next time, I'll see you around the galaxy.